Hello, Pastor Barry McLaughlin here, and welcome to another episode of 7 Minutes of Scripture. We're going to get started pretty quick today without much of an introduction because, we have a lot to talk about. So I would definitely pause it here and catch up on the videos if you've not seen the context of Genesis 1 up to this point. But assuming you've seen the previous videos, we're on day 6, Genesis 1:24. We just finished talking about the sea creatures and the birds, and we are into day 6 of creation. And we're actually going to take several days to break this down. We're only going through Genesis 1, and then we're going to start a brand new series. But this is a very important section because I need more than one 7-minute video or 8-minute video sometimes to explain the fallacies of the theory of evolution. So I just simply will not be able to fit this in. So we're going to do part 1 today. We're not going to rush. Whatever we don't get in, we'll pick up with on Monday or whenever you're watching this video. And so it says this, Then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind. So we understand the kind, as we've previously discussed, is the genus or the family level on the animal kingdom chart. Carolus Linnaeus created this chart, and, it's a man-made chart. But when it says kind, it's talking about those animals that are able to bring forth. And we understand that dogs produce dogs, cats produce cats, humans produce humans. That's the way it is in genetics. And we understand that that would be what a kind is. Now, that doesn't mean that, God created all the species. We understand that there was probably 2 dogs or wolves or whatever it was originally, and then they produced all the dogs we see now. God put the information into them, and then they have variation. We see all kinds of different colors. It's what you call microevolution. Today, we're going to be refuting what's called macroevolution, which means that tiny organisms turned into more complex organisms, which turned into apes, which turned into humans. We don't believe in that. It doesn't jive with Scripture. And so, notice, they're created according to their kind. Cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, according to its kind, and it was so. We talked about what all those 3 mean in the last video. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And so they want to make darn certain that we know they're created according to their kinds. Not one of them was created through a long process. And this is a literal 24-hour day according to the rules of Hebrew grammar, which we've already discussed in multiple videos. And God saw that it was good. Now stop right there. If evolution were to be true, you would have millions of years of animals dying, eating each other, cancer in the fossil records. Would God call that very good? No, he wouldn't. And so we understand that God created everything fully functioning, good. He created everything instantaneously. Now, he did say, let the earth bring forth. So it is possible that he created the animals like he did the humans out of the dust. But that's neither here nor there. God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over the cattle. Gotta skip pages here. Over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Now, if you read Genesis 2, which is a closer look at day 6, and that's key to understand, it's not a continuation. Because some people like to say, well, Genesis 2 is like when he created Adam and Eve. This is when he created some kind of apes. That's not true. Genesis 2, if you look at the context, is a closer look at day 6. And so we understand, we're not going to read it right now, that God, if you want to read it, pause it and read it. God creates Adam from the dust of the ground, and it's an instantaneous thing on day 6. So what I want to pause and look at, I want to look at a few ideas here, breaking down the theory of evolution, and what we don't get to, we'll get to next time. So we understand that we are breaking down what's called macroevolution. I want to contend to you that there are 2 reasons we should not believe in macroevolution. Now, there's a ton of other reasons. There's philosophical reasons. There's moral reasons. There's the fact that we just believe God at his word. But I'm going to give 2 arguments I think are the most compelling. Besides the fact, the most obvious one is it doesn't fit with Scripture. So it doesn't matter anything else. It doesn't fit with Scripture. God said what he did. We trust him. But this is for maybe some skeptics and people who are on the fence about Christianity and the Bible. First of all, there's no evidence for evolution in the fossil record, and there's no evidence for evolution within genetics. And let's talk about the fossils first. This is the area I would consider more my expertise of studying anthropology, ape skulls and things like that. And so I would argue, and so according to the theory of evolution, let's just talk about the common ancestor. According to macroevolution, dogs have a common ancestor. We all have a common ancestor, according to macroevolution. All humans have a common ancestor with apes, great apes, chimpanzees, baboons, orangutans. And so that common ancestor was this primeval ape called an Australopithecus. There's a bunch of theories on which Australopithecus it was. Basically just like a really big ape, kind of like Bigfoot. Okay? And they believe a lot of them walked on two legs, which is actually very limited evidence that that's even true. Very limited evidence. If you look at the skulls and skeletons that are available, it's mere speculation. Even if they did walk on two legs, that does not mean anything as far as a link to humans, by the way. But, okay, so according to that, apes basically diverged from this, and there's another group of Australopithecus that came off of this. And so what basically happens is there's these Australopithecines that evolve into apes and become great apes. Then there's some Australopithecines that evolve. One of them you might have heard of in your high school textbook back when you were in high school, called Lucy. Lucy's real name is Australopithecus afarensis. And that's a mouthful. Okay, so supposedly over millions of years, Lucy evolved into a new type of thing called the Homo genus. Okay, and the first that people they claim that we see in the fossil record is called Homo habilis. Okay, and then Homo habilis evolves into a bunch of things and eventually becomes Homo sapien. And so I want to share with you some fallacies of this theory. First of all, the biggest gaping hole in evolution is that there are no transitional fossils between this form. Meaning, we find Australopithecus. Australopithecus is fully developed, okay? We find other Australopithecines. They're fully developed. We don't find fossils of Australopithecines changing from one form into another. All we find are the completed forms, okay? Also, we don't find evidence that Australopithecines, you ever see the chart where they slowly stand up, the apes? We don't find those in-between forms. They'll say, well, we have Homo habilis, Homo erectus. Those are transitional fossils. They're not. Those things are completed forms. We don't find evidence of Homo habilis evolving into the next thing and Homo neanderthalis evolving into something else, which I would argue that Neanderthals are humans. So if you're following here, all we find is Lucy, okay? Then we find the next thing, then the next thing, then we find the Homo genus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalis. They're all completed things, though. And I would argue that some of these, like Homo habilis, I would argue that a lot of these things are humans. They're just early humans. There's no way you can possibly tell based on the skeletal evidence. They might have had some variation, but there's no way you can possibly tell me that these were some sort of subhuman things. Next time we're going to talk about the genius of Neanderthals, how smart they were. In fact, their brain sizes were bigger than ours. And so we understand that early people were actually very smart. I would say a lot of these early skeletons are, in fact, early humans. Now, some of them are primates, okay? But there's no evidence, if you look, these Australopithecines, which I would argue are primates, these being early humans, there's no evidence that one changed into another. But there's also no evidence from the genetics either. And I want to get into more of the fossils next time. I know we're out of time. We're a little over 7 minutes. But we're going to get into the genetics, more on the fossils next time. Hopefully you don't find this boring. And fact check everything. I encourage you to. Check out Answers in Genesis, Institute for Creation Research. And guys, we're out of time. I'm teaching Sunday school this Sunday at Orangeville Baptist Church. Would love to have you there. We are covering the book of Obadiah. And so God bless you guys, your families, and we'll see you in Monday night's video, hopefully.